I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on subject verb agreement. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 5. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of subject verb agreement. All right. So our chapter is subject verb agreement. Our subject is English language arts. Grade 5. And our lessons that we are going to be focusing on today under the chapter of subject verb agreement is to use the correct subject or verb and to use the correct subject or verb with compound subject. All right. So when it comes to subject verb agreement, right, then it means that our subject, right, it is either the person or thing that we are talking about, and the verb is the action that the subject does, right? And we know that the verb is basically, let's say, like we said, the doing word, right? So, which means that this subject, which is either the person, animal, place, or thing, it needs to basically agree with your verb, right? So it needs to. So it basically means that it needs to agree with your verb. All right. So when your subject and your verb agrees, right? Um, that is where we have our singular subject, and then we also have our plural subject, right? Singular subject refers to either where we are naming only one person, we're naming one animal, or we're naming one place or thing, right? That is a singular subject. And then we have a plural subject, right? And a plural subject, it means where we are referring to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, right? It's more than that. So now it means that, let's say, for example, if we have a singular subject, we're referring to one person, or one animal, or one place, or thing, right? Then it means that our verb needs to agree with that singular subject, right? So when our verb agrees with the singular subject, and then it means that our when we refer to one person, animal, place, or thing, then our verb is either going to end in s, es, or it's going to end in ies. And that is when our subject is singular, right? We use a singular verb. And when we use a singular verb, our verb ends with s, it ends with es, or it ends with ies. And we said that that is when we have a singular subject. And once again, a singular subject, it names only one person, animal, place, or thing, right? All right, if we look at an example, right? So it says Sarah, right? Sarah refers to one person. So Sarah refers to one person, right? So it says Sarah visits her grandmother. So Sarah is our subject, which refers to one person. I'm going to do that for subject. And yet it says visits, and it ends with an S. This is our verb, her grandmother, right? Remember, we said our subject as well as our verb, it needs to agree, right? It must agree. And when we have a singular subject, which refers to one person, animal, place, or thing, like for example, Sarah, then it needs to agree with our singular verb, which ends with s, es, or ies. And in this case, we don't say Sarah visit a grandmother. We say Sarah visits her grandmother, right? So it ends with an s. For example, my cat washes her paws. So my cat is our subject, refers to one cat only, right? So instead of saying my cat wash her paws, we say my cat washes her paws. And this ends with an es. And this is our verb. Now we're going on to the plural, right? So that is a singular. When the verb ends with an ses or ies, then it is a singular verb, right? But now we're going on to plural subjects, right? A plural subject, it names more than one person, animal, place, or thing. More than one, right? Washes, right? It shows a plural. But remember, I'm saying now that your our subject needs to agree with our verb, right? So if, for example, we have one person, animal, place, or thing that we're talking about, like for example, my cat, right? My cat refers to only one animal. It's one animal. And if we want to say what my cat did, if we want to show the action that the cat did, then we say my cat washes, right? So a singular subject, right? It ends with either s, es, or is. That is now the verb, the singular verb that agrees with it. So my cat washes, right? This will mean that it is a singular, this is a singular subject, and this is a singular verb, right? But now we're going on to a plural, right? And when we want our verb to agree with our subject, right? Remember with plural, right? A plural subject, it names more than one person, animal, place, or thing, right? More than one person. And when the subject is plural, it does not, our verb does not end with s, es, or ies. So yes, my cat is plural, but washes is a singular verb, right? Washes is a singular verb. If our subject is singular, then our verb is going to end with an s, es, or ies. You can basically say something like that, yes. But if we have a plural subject, right? Let's say like here with Kyle and Jesse, it refers to two people, right? Then we only say they walk home. So we don't add an s, we don't add an es, or we don't add an ies. So I wouldn't necessarily say that plural ends or changes to singular changes to plural. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think for now, just think of the idea that if you have a singular subject, right? If we are referring to one person, animal, place, or thing, then our verb ends with an s, es, or ies. And if we refer to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, which is our plural subject, then our verb does not have an S, does not end with an S, ES, or IES, right? It does not. Remember, we're talking about the action, the action. It's almost like saying sit changes to sits. It's like saying, if I want to say angel, angel refers to one person, right? Now I want to say that angel, now I say angel listens to Miss Kotu. Oh, I'm saying my surname, sorry. So we can say angel listens to Miss Nadine, right? So angel refers to one person, which means that angel is singular. And the verb, right, that tells us what angel is doing is listens, and it ends with an S. So angel listens. And if we say the grade fives, right, because grade fives refer to all 14 of you, then we're going to say the grade fives, or they say grade five students, they listen without this, they listen to Miss Nadine, right? So do we understand? We're referring to one person or one animal or one thing or one place. We, for example, use words or we use verbs like listens, plays, washes, visits, dances, which means that our verbs ends with an S, ES, or IES, right? But if we are referring to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, then we either only say listen, play, dance, wash, visit, right? grow, walk without the S, ES, or IAS. We can say Kyla is a, in this case, it says Kyle and Jesse is plural because it's more than one person that we are talking about. When we say grade 5 students, sorry, I wanted to say students, that refers to more than one, right? It's plural. So this is a plural sentence, right? And the grade 5 students, they listen. And as you can see, listen, it has no S at the end, right? So they listen. But as soon as we refer to one person, then we say then we say that one person listens, right? If we want to say Prabha, right? If we want to make an example of Prabha, then we say Prabha talks to Matthew, right? Talks to Matthew. So talks, it ends with an S. But as soon as we say Prabha and Matthew, right? And then we want to make mention that they are talking to the class, and we say Prabha and Matthew, which refers to two people. And then we say they talk to the grade 5s, right? So remember, when we have a singular verb, when we're making mention of one person, animal, place, or thing, then our verb ends with an S, ES, or IES, right? But if we have a plural subject, right, which refers to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, and then our verb do not end with an S, ES, or IES. Remember, if we say listen, right? Only listen without the S. If we say listen, then it is plural, a plural verb. But as soon as we say listens, and then it's a singular verb, singular, right? Because we are referring to one person doing that action. They listens, or he or she listens, right? So that is basically our subject verb agreement. And that is why we said our subject and our verb, it needs to agree within a sentence, right? And once again, before we go to aplusstudents.ca, we have one subject, right? It refers to one person, it refers to one animal, it refers to one place or one thing, right? Once we make mention of one person doing something, then our verb ends with S, ES, or IES, right? But as soon as we have a plural subject which refers to more than one person, right, doing an action, and then it does not end with an S, ES, or IAS, we remove that S, right? And an example is the flowers, which is a subject, grow. So the flowers grow in the garden. If we refer to one flower and then we say that one flower grows in the garden. But since we are talking about a lot of flowers, right? We are saying the flowers, they grow in the garden, right? All right. So now we're going to aplusstudents.ca, right? We're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we are going to, we said our chapter is subject verb agreement. So we're going to the first lesson that says use the correct subject or verb. All right. So now, once again, right, we see the subject and the verb in a sentence, they must agree, right? Remember, we said that it must agree with one another, right? And we said that if the subject, right, is singular, and then our verb ends with an s, es, or ies, right? But if your subject is plural, then our verb does not end with an s, es, or ies. Oh, it's Nadine. That's how it's written. Oh, I apologize. Yes, I've noticed they made a mistake. So it's Nadine with Nadine. All right. So, like we said, it needs to agree with one another, right? And if we look at an activity, right? It says we need to complete the sentence with the best verb, right? You're welcome. We are going to now complete the sentence with the correct verb. We're either going to add a verb with an s, es, or ies, or with no s, right? Depending if our subject is either singular or if our subject is plural, right? All right, just give us like 2 minutes, right? Just 2 minutes, and then we are going to the test, right? All right, it says complete the sentence with the best verb. So, in the workshop, a young carpenter, right? We now need to say what he did in the night, right? So, we are either going to say that a young carpenter, do we say tinkers or do we say tinker? We need to use between one of these two words. In the workshop, a young carpenter, it refers to one young carpenter, only one person, right? Do we say a young carpenter tinkers late into the night or tinker late into the night? Which one are we going to choose? A young carpenter, which refers to one man or one woman. Do we say tinkers late into the night or tinker late into the night? All right. And if we choose the correct word or the correct verb, we're going to say the young carpenter tinkers late into the night. So well done. And remember, we said tinkers because we said a singular subject, right? It needs to agree with a singular verb that ends with s, es, or ies, right? So well done. So we're going on to the next one, tinkers. Oh, so tinker is like, for example, It's like you're moving, it's like you're traveling from one place to another place, right? It's like you're working, but you are traveling from one place to another place with your tools while you're working. And that is usually like, where we can say in the olden days where people used to move from one place to another place and doing these jobs, right, with your tools and so on. And you like stacking up your toolbox and you're moving from one place to another and you're working, right? That is tinkers. It's like he's working, but he's moving from one place to another place with his toolbox, for example. It's like he's basically either to repair something or to, it's for his work. So that is what tinker is. Yes, that is why I said afterwards it's to fix while he's going to be fixing certain things. So as you're moving around to fix certain things. Remember, it is basically you are working, right? So tinkers around late at night, it means that he's going to be fixing things. It's for a job, right? So fixing things, but you are moving from place to place. So yes, that is correct, Prabha. Thank you. All right, let us go to our test. You're welcome and thanks for also helping. All right, we're going to complete the sentence with the best verb, right? Remember, before we start with our test, if our subject is singular, if we refer to one person, animal, place, or thing, our verb ends with an S, ES, or IES. But if we're referring to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, our verb does not end with an S, ES, or IES, right? Just keep that in mind before we start with our test. All right. So now it says we need to complete the sentence with the base verb. Mice, right? Mice. Mice refers to more than one mouse, right? So mice, do we say mice range or we say mice ranges in color from white to brown to gray? Which one is the correct one? Do we say mice range or mice ranges? Yes, well done. Remember, mice is plural, which means that our verb should not end with an S, ES, or IES, which means what we say mice range in color from white to brown to gray. So well done. Range is correct. Well done, everybody. After dinner, all of us hurdle or hurdles by the fire, and Warren sings folk songs. I really don't know why it's blurry. Who else sees it as blurry? So do we say after dinner, all of us hurdle or all of us hurdles by the fire and Warren sings folk songs? What is the correct answer? The correct verb, is it hurdle or huddle? Sorry, huddle or huddles? All right. And if we use the correct verb, then yes, since we are using all of us refers to being plural, then we say all of us huddle, right, by the fire. So well done. Huddle is correct. The cactus, right? The cactus. Do we say the cactus refers to one cactus grows, or the cactus grow taller and taller, reaching towards the sky? So the cactus, do we say the cactus grows taller and taller, reaching towards the sky, or the cactus grow taller and taller, reaching towards the sky? The cactus, do we say the cactus grows, or the cactus grow taller and taller, reaching towards the sky? Yes, well done. Well done. So we can say the cactus grows, right? Because the cactus refer to it being a singular thing. And when we have a singular thing, we add an S to our verb that agrees with our singular thing. So well done, guys. Well done. In the story, do we say the beasts with red eyes crushes the rose bushes in his path? Or do we say in the story, the monster with green fur crushes the rose bushes in his path? The beasts or the monster? They're saying in the story, right? Our verb is crushes. That is a verb. Our verb ends with an es, right? Crushes. So now our subject, does it say in the story the beasts with red eye, or do we say the monster with green fur crushes the rose bushes in his path? All right, so if we choose the correct one, we can say in the story, the monster with green fur crushes the rosebuds in his path. So we're saying the monster, because the monster refers, with the green eyes, refers to one subject, one, let's say one thing, right? So which means that our verb had to end with an ses or ies. All right, let's go into the next one. Did you know that our business normally, or do we say, do you know that our business keep normal hours during the holidays? Or do we say, did you know our business keeps normal hours during the holidays? All right, so do we say, did you know that our business keep, or our business keeps normal hours during the holidays? All right, then if we choose the correct one, we can say, did you know that our business keeps? Well done. So keeps is correct. So well done. Well done. All right, so with a singular or a plural subject, right, we see that it ends with an S, ES, or IES. That is for a singular subject that adds or that agrees with a singular verb. And we see the plural subject, right? It does not end with an S, ES, or IES. That is now the verb, right? But now when we're talking about a compound subject, right? A compound subject is made up of two subjects. It's like it's like two people, two animals, things, or so on. So two of them, right? So a compound subject is made up of two subjects that is joined by a conjunction. And a conjunction can either be and or, right? So example, it's either as saying, this is the example, it's either as saying Mark and Amanda, right? Or we say this week or next week, right? So it's either we adding something or we are being like choices, either this week or next week, right? And when a compound subject is joined by and, for example, Mark and Amanda, right? Then it is treated as a plural. It's treated as a plural. If you say Mark and Amanda, we say Nolly and Prabha. We say Prabha and Matthew, right? If we say Sith and Angel, for example, then it means that it is a plural subject that we're talking about, which means that if it is plural, then we need to use a plural verb where we don't add an S, ES, or IES, right? But when the compound subject is joined by or, right, either or, right, it can be treated as a singular or a plural, right? So we use the verb that agrees with the subject closest to the verb. All right. So we see that it is either singular or it can be plural, and we use the verb that agrees with the subject closest to the verb. For example, if the subject closest to the verb is singular, we use a singular verb. It's like saying, my parents or Emily. So my parents or Emily brings me soup. Why do we say brings? It's because Emily is closest to the verb. So we can say brings me soup when I'm sick. All right. And now, once again, let us remember we said that if we have a compound subject, right? And we have compound subjects that is joined by conjunction, either and or, right? And with and, if we have the compound subject with and, then we know it is a plural subject because we are adding another name. But as soon as we say or, right, then or can either be subject or it can be plural. And we will only know if it's subject or plural based on whichever word or subject is closest to the verb. All right, so let's go to our test. It says, do we say the piece of paper? Do we say the piece of paper fall off the desk? Or do we say the pens and paper fall off the desk? Do we say the piece of paper fall off the desk? Or do we say the pens and paper fall off the desk? Guys, we are not done yet. We are almost done. Let us just complete this test. So do we say the piece of paper fall off the desk, or do we say the pens and paper fall off the desk? All right, then if we choose the correct one, we'll say the pens and paper fall off the desk. So the second one is correct. So well done. Well done. A car or a bus. A car or a bus carries travelers to the airport 3 times a day, or they carry travelers to the airport 3 times a day. Which one is correct? A car or a bus carries or carry travelers to the airport 3 times a day. So a car or a bus, do we say carries or carry travelers to the airport 3 times a day? All right. And if we choose the correct one, we can say carries travelers to the airport 3 times a day. Let's just do one more and then we are done. Do we say the first fiddle sound out of tune to me, or the fiddles and the flutes sound out of tune to me? Which one is the correct one? One last one. Do we say the first fiddle sound out of tune to me, or do we say the fiddles and the flutes sound out of tune to me? Which one is correct? All right, and if we choose the correct one, right, we're going to say the fiddles and the flutes sound out of tune to me, because remember we said we have a plural subject, right? It needs to agree with a plural verb with no s, es, or ies. All right. All right. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on subject verb agreement. We said that when it comes to subject verb agreement, the subject and the verb needs to agree with one another, right? We said that when we have a singular subject and then it refers to one person, animal, place, or thing, then it needs to agree with the verb that ends with an s, es, or ies. But if we have a plural subject, right, which refers to more than one person, animal, place, or thing, and then it needs to agree with our verb, right, that does not end with an s, es, or ies, right? All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on subject verb agreement. Thank you very much, grade 5, for joining the class, and I really hope that you understood what subject verb agreement means. So have a good evening further. Goodbye. Same to you guys. Have a good afternoon. A good evening. No problem.